we are going to start the politician session. I would like just to make a quick introduction, is that we are going to change a bit the agenda because Matthew Baldwin has to leave earlier than expected, so he will be the second to speak just after Lyon. As you said, Jem, the focus and the angle of the political session is on what's next, how cities can achieve bold goals, bold ambitions, such as being climate neutral. That's quite essential. We are not speaking of what we have done, even if we have done great things, and we are still doing great things because some projects are still running, and there will be other projects that will make grow the family of the smart cities and communities. So we are speaking on the what's next. The idea is really to see how cities will cope with climate change and how they will change their organization, their mindset, how they will accelerate the pace of implementation, and so forth. So we have a very exciting panel, and I would like to start with introducing Raphaël Michaud, who will speak on behalf of Grégory Doucet, the Mayor of Lyon, and the President of the SPL Lyon Confluence. The SPL Lyon Confluence is a coordinator of the Smarter Together project. Before asking questions to Raphaël, I would like to inform all the participants that you have to go to the translation button and choose the English channel because Raphaël will speak in French. French is a beautiful language, and particularly if it's translated by our very good interpreters. So, Raphaël, many thanks to be there. I would like to start a political session with you by asking a very simple questions. How do you, or the city of Lyon, intends to work on climate neutrality? I believe that you have a strong inclination towards citizens, so it's maybe quite essential that you also say a few words about how you are going to address these challenges. Raphaël, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I will skip to French, but I want first to thank everyone for being here. And I'm really proud to represent here Lyon with all the mailers over there, and all the technicians working to have this neutral cities, neutral carbon cities. Donc maintenant,
So now I shall move into French so that I can be clearer. So indeed, the question of how cities can participate in changing habits, changing behaviors. The most important, I believe, is to work on the findings and what is happening with relates to climate deregulation and its acceptance. This carbon neutrality, for the time being, is in all of the literature. This morning, once again, there's a wonderful report with excellent solutions and technical solutions in particular. We note, however, that there is a status quo, a sort of certain inertia. And when we faced with habits and 40 years of oil abundance, even 100 years back, 100 years of abundance of energy, people are used to their little comforts and habits, which link energy and carbon to comfort. So I believe that it's very important that the city remains a comfortable city. But to date, that's not actually the case anymore. In Lyon, in September 2020, 1,000 students were absent. So many families that decided to leave Lyon, leave the city, because the city didn't seem desirable enough to them anymore. So faced with this finding that the city has become too hostile, aggressive, too hot, we wish in Lyon to regain a collective imaginary, a desire to live of a certain city, which must go through positive imagination and a desire to change, and a desire to say that life will be better and life will be more beautiful after. So this commitment to change, we believe in this. We were elected for this, for our capacity to make new practices, new ways of living desirable. I'm thinking in particular of the fact that life is easier in the city if you travel around by bike, in the city if there's less pollution and fewer appointments with the doctor with your kids because they have asthma, will give a better quality of life. Also, if you have green areas around where you live that help you to make you feel peaceful. And if you're only 15 minutes away from your work, the public facilities and shops. So this desirable imagination must be worked upon with the citizens. And thanks to all of the experimentations that we're holding in Lyon, thanks to Confluence and all of the European projects that our predecessors and the ASPM were engaged in, we have a whole series of solutions, of trials and experiments. And for me, the quality of what is done and the key to success is that these experiments must be observed and engineered so that we can understand whether they have worked or not. And I think that the key, therefore, to success of this transition to a low carbon city is our ability to recognize our failures and draw conclusions about what works and what doesn't. In Lyon, we therefore have this experimental city that worked on energy, transport, in Confluence. And I decided over the past 12 months to draw up a charter for construction quality, which draws inspiration from the successes we have achieved in Confluence. What efforts can we ask from property developers, from inhabitants, without them thinking, no, the city is too difficult, too technological? What are the elements that we can use to make these cities desirable? So this charter is online on the site of the City of Lyon. We will no doubt have an English version in just a few weeks. And what is important is to understand that as from the point that we have quality in terms of usage, quality of life that is guaranteed thanks to these experiments, we will be able to really want to go in this direction. I said it has to be a voluntary approach. We have to be bold and ambitious. And to be ambitious and to really get the citizens on board, there has to be a certain degree of trust. To give up comfort to go towards something that's unknown means you need to have trust and an imagination that is desirable. So this desirable city is the one that we are designing every day in Lyon. I will continue in French. Thank you, Raphaël. Maybe there's a second question which is important. How can we manage to reduce the time to bring all of this to life? Because you said that the report shows us that this is very, very urgent. And we know that cities are slow players most of the time. So how can we manage to pick up the pace and really convey the messages, and maybe also as underlined, to really rely more on the trust of our citizens? All of the stakeholders faced with the speed of the disappearance of biodiversity and gathering climate change. Everybody understands this, but everybody must do their own share. Europe and the state set a landmark. They give us a roadmap. That's in France is the low carbon strategy, which means that in 2040 there will no longer be any traditional engines in cars. And this will allow the city to adapt strategies that are aligned with their expectations. And so this is implementing a low carbon zone, and say that in 2026 there will no longer be any diesel vehicles driving through Lyon. And so it might seem a bit long, but 14 years later there won't be any oil at all. So a decarbon city will be a reality in 2040. So we have to be ambitious with regard to this strategy. So in a regulatory framework and in a framework that allows us to turn to citizens and say, well, the rules of the game have changed. We only have 20 years left to change. So what do? We have 19 years left to change. How do we go about it? And within this framework, the cities can draw inspiration from experimentations and experimentations which place citizens in the heart of the process. So we have all sorts of technological tools and technical solutions to build low carbon buildings that use very little energy or none at all. So very good means of moving ahead. So now we have to offer these to the citizens so that they can take them on board. And for this to happen, I really believe in the spirit of community. And we were saying in Confluence, there are many examples of good practices and good examples where you can just go and pick and choose amongst a catalogue of solutions. Low carbon buildings made from wood, made from clay. There are solutions for collective self-consumption of the energy in a building or a neighborhood where the energy is produced and used in the same place. And I think that we have to also draw inspiration from other territories. We spend a lot of time regularly with Rob Hopkins, Cities in Transition, where we really believe in this capacity to go and look at what has happened well and what makes citizens happier, and why do they to look at why they're regularly celebrating successes in the capacity of finding food locally, of setting up local models that make your money mean something. And we found examples of places where we can live without lifts and using stairs, because we've designed stairs that make you want to go up and down the stairs. We've designed balconies that allow us to have outside spaces to tolerate density. We have apartments with windows on either side, which allow you to create a draft when it's hot. So we create a local result or an international network and say, well, if it works in Glasgow or in Stuttgart, why wouldn't we try to do this? And why wouldn't we move towards a city that is entirely pedestrian? So we've really gone and found all of these examples elsewhere. And I think the capacity of speeding things up in the city means that you have to, we have to allow citizens to really take things on board. And we need trials to do this. So we're going to launch a lot of calls for projects to create blocks of citizens in transition so that the city can facilitate all of the processes that can be engaged around how we can get rid of the concrete, plant trees, have orchards, how we can set up in a block best practices to renovate buildings and find sources of funding so that we can reduce energy consumption. So all of these local clusters are based on technology and everything we can learn from smart cities. But I believe actually far more in smart citizens.
Thank you very much, Raphaël, for this conclusion, smart citizen. So I would like to hand over to Matthieu Bourlouin. So Matthieu, you are the mission manager of a very ambitious program, which is the mission board to have in 2030, 100 climate neutral cities across Europe. I would like to bounce back to what Raphaël emphasized. I think on the technology standpoint, we can achieve climate neutrality with almost the existing or early adoption of the technology we have deployed. But we still need 50% of new technologies, new programs to achieve this goal. So my question will be how the mission board will try to address this particular and very challenging challenge, and particularly how do you see the combination between technologies, between organizational challenges, and citizen challenges as well. So Matthieu, thank you very much for being there. The floor is yours now.
Now, I mean, at this precise time, which is why I have to leave you. I'm very sorry. I really wanted to actually speak last because I wanted to listen to the cities, but I will stay as long as I possibly can and leave at the last moment. I'd just like to very quickly, before I answer your question, just give you a quick situation report as to where we are, because many of you will know that the mission boards produce these very innovative and wonderful plans in 5 areas, which we're calling missions, including on climate neutral and smart cities. And we've been working on implementation plans in the Commission, and I can report that I think we're now going to see the launch of these missions formally in September. We've got a little more work to do on our implementation plans, but it's been a very thorough process. So watch this space, as they say. And particularly as Raphaël said, I think these missions are perfectly designed to address the inertia, which we all naturally face. If you like, Apollo missions, we have to break out of the orbit. We have to break out of the habit if we're going to meet the ambitious goals of the Paris Accord. And just to remind ourselves, to meet those goals, the European Union has concluded collectively, everybody, that we need to reduce our climate emissions by 55% by 2030. If we're going to do that, we need that leadership from cities to get there, and with a high level of ambition, that is to say, climate neutrality. And so just very quickly, the goal is to have in 2 objectives. Firstly, to have 100 cities who are going to take that plunge, and it is very ambitious, as you all know, to be climate neutral by 2030, but to be also living labs. And I'm starting to begin to address your question here, so that all cities can be climate neutral by 2050. There is no choice if we are to be a climate neutral continent by 2050. And so how do we combine these different elements, the research and innovation and technology, with, of course, the necessary financial elements, the practical elements, because innovation is absolutely central to what we're trying to achieve. Learning from the experience of the smart cities marketplace, as Raphaël just said, learning from the smart cities themselves and from the smart citizens themselves. It's a complex business. And again, there is a lot of technology out there in terms of, I don't think we all need to be putting on our goggles and our white coats necessarily to be innovating. We need to take this concept of innovation from the new Horizon Europe in a broad sense: social innovations, innovations in governance, innovations bringing citizens within, if we're going to negotiate these climate city contracts, which will be the fulcrum of how cities will set out to achieve their efforts through a combination of innovation, policy support, and of course, funding and financing. If I may, also just picking up quickly the points that have been made by Jem as well as Raphaël. No reinvention of the wheel. That's very important. The last thing the cities want to hear is just yet another project, which is saying, listen to me, join up with me. We want to work with, add value to, build on the existing projects, such as, of course, the Smart Cities Marketplace, such as the Green City Accords, the Covenant of Mayors. I'm reading from a huge list, just a selection. We will try to use the methodologies of the Covenant of Mayors. We will work with the EU Climate Pact as it reaches out to citizens across Europe. And as far as possible, we want cities to, again, keep that innovation going at all levels of technological readiness, if you like, but embody that within these contracts. And at the same time, we know we have to help cities in practical ways, organizational ways, to develop portfolio-based financing approaches, as well as just project-based finance approaching, a really holistic approach to the governance, again, learning from the experiences that you've had in order to get there. Last point, just very quickly, in terms of the process. If we get our final green light, and it, as you will know, as politicians, civil servants like me should never anticipate that final political green light. We will be launched in September, and we hope to move quickly to a call for expression of interest from cities. That'll be a big moment for us. So expect to see that template emerging with an information pack, I hope, reasonably early in the autumn. And then we hope from the start of 2022 to start co-creating with member states, with the regions, with private sector players, with financial players, these climate city contracts for the first wave of cities. I better stop there, but I hope I've started to explain how we're going to try to embody the research and innovation aspects with the practical aspects of actually delivering what it says on the tin, 100 climate neutral cities by 2030.
have maybe one question. It's about the portfolio-based approach you emphasize. I think it's absolutely essential to have programs in large or small cities because it will. I have maybe one question. It's about the portfolio-based approach you emphasize. I think it's absolutely essential to have programs in large or small cities because it will ease the way to finance them. The question is, you can stay, but we will have a keynote speech with Time for Planet, for instance, which is an investment fund with a particular...
I really wanted to hear that. I'm so upset. I hope I
so
can watch
it's
the recording.
not possible, but we have seen in the Lighthouse network some project trying to create some investment fund at a local level, which raise the question of how we can involve also citizens and how cities can really govern, in a way, the investment fund. So it's maybe more easy to do it in London or in a large city such as Cologne, for instance. But for small and medium-sized cities who do not have the same competencies or the same wave or the same department, because if you look at Lyon is very skilled in terms of competencies and in-house tool and so on. Do you go to something a bit particular for small and medium-sized cities who needs to be carbon neutral but may not have the internal means or competencies to address the challenge?
The east and from the south of Europe, as well as from the north and west, to move beyond the usual suspects. We want to have cities of different sizes. We are trying to work with cities in the first wave of at least 50,000 inhabitants, but also, of course, we want cities of different levels of prior ambition and preparedness to tackle these huge challenges. But exactly on finance, you put your finger on the right point. A lot of people say, is all of this going to be funded by the Horizon Europe budget? How could it possibly sustain it? And of course, it won't be. Horizon Europe funding will be the seed money, if you like, to start us off on the way. And I very much hope that can be confirmed and we can be launched. But we will need funding from other programs within the Commission, from structural funds, from the Recovery and Resilience Facility. And that's part of the buy-in, which I hope you'll see within the Commission. But finally, most importantly, we'll need to reach out to the finance sources. The material economic study, which backed up the Mission Board report, which identified a rough cost of 1 billion euros for a city of an average population size of 100,000, talked about only 17% of that finance being generated by the city and direct forces itself. And that means 83% money coming from private financial sources. So we've already begun to speak, not just with the European Investment Bank Group, who are extremely interested in this project, but with national promotional institutions, regional, local promotional banks as well. If you take the example of Leuven just down the road, which is already committed to climate neutrality by 2030, they've been working very closely with local banks. And then if you ally this thinking to the very revolutionary ongoing thinking we have in the Commission on sustainable finance, you open up the path to green bonds for cities. And I don't mean just city green bonds, but green bonds for cities. Private companies are launching green bonds. And what better expression of a citizen commitment to the changes that are necessary. And again, as Gemma said, not just climate neutrality, but the co-benefits that flow from lower energy bills, fewer crashes, better air quality, less congestion on the streets. What better manifestation of that commitment than being able to invest your money in a bond to actually drive that change within the city? We have to rethink how we do citizens engagement. It's not just oh yes, we must consult our citizens. We need to engage our citizens. It's by the citizens and for the citizens, the work that we have to engage. And finance shouldn't be a separate subject off there done by pointy-headed people from Wall Street or London or wherever, but stuff that we do locally as well. So I know that sounds very big and very ambitious, but I think we need to think about small and medium-sized city models for financing, which have to be practical and down to earth. Not everyone in a city of 50,000 people is going to have access to that final financial expertise. But part of the power of this project will be to be bringing resources to the city to explain how these things can be done. And maybe we can package up different cities with similar needs in terms of these financial requirements. But again, as somebody said, the power of necessity has the power to generate new ways of working inside the Commission, with cities, inside cities. It's so exciting. It's the most exciting project I've worked on in many, many years in the Commission.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and I hope you can stay a bit to see what
I want to shut up now and listen. I'm sorry to have spoken so long.
No problem at all. So I would like to hand over the next. Thank you very much, Matthew, and I hope you can stay a bit to see what the cities.
I want to shut up now and listen. I'm sorry to have spoken so long.
No problem at all. So I would like to hand over the next speaker, who will be Katrin Habenschaden. I'm absolutely sorry because I maybe not pronounce well your name. I spent 5 years with German people from Munich, but obviously my German didn't improve. So apology for that. Katrin, are you there? Because you will speak about very bold ambition of Munich to be climate neutral by 2035, if I'm correct. The floor is yours, Katrin.
For organizing this political session. As mayoress of the city of Munich, I'm very happy to contribute a perspective from the south of Germany today. I think we all agree on the urgency of taking decisive action towards climate neutrality in our cities. We must initiate action at the municipal level as quickly as possible. So it's a question of speed, in my opinion. From Munich point of view, this includes, among other things, the climate-friendly transformation of transport, of traffic, the expansion of renewable energies and the transition to sustainable energy supply in the heating sector, many more energy-efficient buildings in our city, a greener city in the meaning of the word, the change towards a circular economy, a big topic in Munich, and last but not least, the promotion of sustainable lifestyles. Of course, we are also feeling the consequences of the climate change firsthand in Munich. We have a lot more hot summer days. We have a lot more tropical nights. They are increasing just as much as heavy rainfall events, especially in the last 2 weeks. We have trees and green spaces plugged by drought, as well as major challenges in managing our forests in our city by drought suffering as well. Alongside all the challenges, however, we also see our responsibility as a city. We accept this responsibility very enthusiastically. At the end of 2019, we declared a climate emergency in Munich. Big discussions, of course. At that time, we also set ourselves the goal of being climate neutral as a city by, you mentioned it, 2035, and as a city administration by 2030. You can see that it's a question of the speed. In order to achieve these goals, we are planning following climate policy measures. On January the 1st in 2021, we founded our own department for climate and environmental protection. The department is currently working intensively on the city's new climate strategy and on a concrete action plan for our climate goals. Both will be completed and adopted by the City Council during the course of this year, hopefully now in July. And of course, we actively involve civil society and our stakeholders, economy, for example, in our citywide strategy process. But first of all, and that's important, we have to do our homework as a city administration. There will be a climate protection audit of City Council decisions, as well as a central controlling of climate relevant expenditures and their carbon dioxide effectiveness. And we also have to make our own city-owned buildings, such as schools, administrative buildings, and houses of the municipal housing associations more energy efficient. Together with the Stadtwerke Munich, that's our public utility company, we are working on the transition to a sustainable energy supply in the heating sector. Fortunately, geology has blessed us in Munich with access to geothermal energy, which is good. And last but not least, we are currently working on trying out the development of city districts in the first real world laboratories, which is Reallabore in German. We are convinced that we can only achieve real progress in climate protection by implementing it locally with everybody and everyone. All of this will cost us a lot of money, but even in times of tight budgets due to COVID-19, we cannot save on climate protection because climate change will not wait for us. So we have additional climate budget of 100 million euros each year. And in terms of the climate-friendly transformation of transport, I also mentioned it, we have established a new mobility department, and we are pushing ahead the development of a free car old town in the city center. With regard to public transport, we have recently decided to build 8 new tram lines, 4 new underground lines. We want to use all these instruments possible to strengthen ecological transport, to make it attractive. For example, by implementing a cycling strategy, a pedestrian strategy, or by better traffic control. This was a quick review, and it's great to see that many other municipalities are taking the same or an equal path as we are. The crisis has shown us how quickly everything can change, how quickly an administration can change, and how quickly we are able to change old habits and take new paths if we need to. So we shouldn't we finally be able to do the same with the challenges of the climate crisis? I think so, yes. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe one reaction from what you have said. You have said that you are going to spend a lot of budget to... Well, thank you very much. Maybe one reaction from what you have said. You have said that you are going to spend a lot of budget to address the climate neutrality within the city of Munich and certainly with the support of other partners, but we can maybe consider this not as expenses, but as investment. And certainly we can have return on investment, and particularly, for instance, to get a city which will be more, as you said, friendly or livable. So I think we have to speak about investment now, and as you are investing heavily in climate neutral.
This, by the needs we have to get into this process.
Great. Thank you very much for your speech. I would like now to hand over to a small, medium-sized city to maybe further continue with what we have discussed. Great. Thank you very much for your speech. I would like now to hand over to a small, medium-sized city to maybe further continue with what we have discussed with Michaud. Eneko Goia, you are, I think, the mayor of San Sebastian, if I'm correct. Yes, and the floor is yours, Eneko. No, Eneko is not completely online.
Yes.
Yes, you are there. Perfect. Thank you very much, Eneko. The floor is yours.
Has coordinated the Lighthouse Replicate project for the last 5 years. This was an extensive project which came to a successful conclusion, as confirmed by the European Commission and the final assessment drawn up this year. The Replicate project's implementations mostly emerged in a district of San Sebastian, a district called Chomin, and this included citywide implementations. The Chomin residential neighborhood is located in the Urumea Riverside district a strategic space for the materialization of integrated projects to turn into a smart district with practically zero emissions, thereby generating a local sustainability and innovation brand and identity. In order to come up with a solution for problems in the neighborhood and move it forward to a district with practically zero emissions, San Sebastian Town Hall devised a special urban plan to revitalize the district, attempting to regenerate the residential area by building approximately 1,300 new houses on energy efficiency criteria. Through its public company Fomento of San Sebastian, the city of Donostia also drew up a city smart plan setting out its smart strategy, featuring the main challenge of establishing a strategic focus and shared objectives to make public action consistent and coordinated. In this context, we have worked to transform Chomin into a district which is now a sustainability smart benchmark, considering it as a space for experimentation and pilot projects. In a bid to test drive its replication potential in other areas of the city, the territory, or other European cities in terms of sustainability, energy efficiency, sustainable mobility, infrastructures and communications, transparency and citizen involvement. The projects are implemented in a process of public-private collaboration with a constant analysis of a possible business model as a key feature to move towards economic sustainability and drive the local economic fabric. The main goal is to improve the general public's standard of living and maximize the city's competitiveness by involving all its agents, public sector, business, universities, technological corporations, local people, etc. Through initiatives which utilize and manage the city's resources efficiently. Scalability and replicability are analyzed for each project. With regard to sustainable energy, the deployment of a new centralized biomass district heating system is providing a service for homes in the district. The heating service and urban domestic hot water are owned by the town hall through Fomento of San Sebastian. The district had a number of old houses which were non-energy efficient, and comprehensive energy refurbishment project was carried out on these units. The benefits of the work carried out were improvements in energy efficiency, energy ratings and household comfort, along with cost savings and lower levels of CO2 emissions. The Smart Homes initiative was carried out on an entire building of 162 homes and innovative technological projects with high-level monitoring of both the building systems and the systems of individual households. The objective is to boost and promote energy efficiency and to spike environmental awareness for the use of ECTs, and also to improve the management and functioning of the building and the homes. Turning to sustainable mobility, a line of electric buses was produced with the purchase of 2 buses along with a recharging infrastructure, providing a better connection between Chomin and the city center. Electric vehicles were also bought for the municipal fleet, and the city's e-taxi service was promoted. Not only did the purchase of electric buses to connect the district to the city center reduce CO2 emissions, but the move was also much appreciated by users in terms of comfort, less noise, and safety of city transport, while the general public welcomed the local authority initiative to boost efficiency and sustainability. In the field of ECTs and infrastructure, a smart city platform was created to manage information on the town hall's municipality services. The city's high-speed mobile wireless network was also improved thanks to the local high-speed connectivity infrastructure used in various public services such as control of traffic lights, video surveillance cameras for the municipal police, Wi-Fi network, etc. The new Chomin district now features an efficient lighting system with the new LED technology, and smart public lighting has been installed in its industrial area. All data concerning to the projects implemented in Chomin are being monitored. Our monitoring and management of data and information of this project and other smart initiatives have also led us to start work on predictive analysis, an area we intend to follow up in the future. In addition to the action taken with regard to energy, mobility and ICT's infrastructure, in 2019, a process of collaborative reflection commenced with people living in the district and a number of business and organizations. This participational process was organized exclusively on smart issues and has led to the visualization of several potential urban transformation scenarios. When the Replicate project was complete, we continued to work with the information obtained from the participational process to produce scalable initiatives that could be replicated in other areas of the city, such as, for example, an analysis of the potential of renewable energies in the district, an energy efficiency advisory facility for people and retail outlets in the neighborhood city, monitoring of numbers of people, bicycles and vehicles using sensor equipments, etc. In short, by moving forward on these projects, replicating them and building up their scale, in the future, we will continue to advance towards climate neutrality in San Sebastian, and we hope to do this by sharing our experience with other European cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eneko. Maybe one question related to finance. You're a small, medium-sized cities. You have been certainly hit by the COVID-19. Thank you very much, Eneko. Maybe one question related to finance. You're a small, medium-sized cities. You have been certainly hit by the COVID-19 crisis due to the fact that San Sebastian is also a very vibrant city for tourists, for instance. Do you face some challenges regarding the financial needs you may have to implement your sustainability strategy? And have you started to work with maybe local bank, as Michaud pointed out in his speech?
Administrations with the autonomic government and also with the local government of the territory of Gipuzkoa. And we have prepared different projects, and we are waiting for the European funds that they were announced, the next generation funds, and we think and we hope that some of those funds will help us to develop our projects in the future. In the past, it has been the same because the Replicate project was highly financed by the European Commission. And in the future, I hope that it will be the same. Our responsibility is to be prepared and to have the projects and to have the possibility of developing them quickly and easily. And I think that the city of San Sebastian has demonstrated the capacity to do that. So, because otherwise it's really impossible to develop all the projects always or only with the local financing. We need other institutions' help.
Today we had a presentation about the amazing job you did with electric buses, and we have realized that if you want, or other cities, Today we had a presentation about the amazing job you did with electric buses, and we have realized that if you want, or other cities want to roll out what you have done, it will cost a lot of money. It will be very demanding in terms of investment. So that's also certainly a challenge to face in the futures. Okay, thank you very much, Eneko, for your speech. We are going now to hand over to Katarina Luhr. Katarina, you have two hats, I will say. The first one is that you are Deputy Mayor of Stockholm, and you are also one of the members of the Covenant of the Executive Board, if I'm correct, of the Covenant of Mayors. So you will have the challenge to speak on behalf of Stockholm, of course, because we all expect many things from Stockholm, but also from the Covenant Mayor standpoint, which is a bit difficult because you have so many cities in it. It would be challenging. So thank you very much, Katarina.
Since 1990, although we have been growing in both number of citizens and economically. And per person, the reduction in climate emissions is approximately 70% since 1990. And since 2 years back, we have a completely fossil fuel-free public transport system. And last year, we closed our last remaining coal-powered power plant. So this is great, but of course, it's not good enough. So in 2016, the city of Stockholm adopted the goal to become a fossil fuel-free city by 2040. And given the urgency of the climate crisis, we realized that we needed to set our sights even higher, of course. So in 2020, last year, we adopted a new climate plan that will put us on track to become not just fossil fuel free, but also climate positive by 2040. And this means that 2040 at the latest, Stockholm will actively contribute to the reduction of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And I also hope that our pioneering climate work in Stockholm will show other cities that ambitious climate policies and social and economic prosperity can go hand in hand. Over 70% of EU greenhouse gases are emitted in cities, which is why it's so important that real action happens on the ground. And this can take many forms. New modes of transports have to be put in place. The cityscape has to be redesigned to fit pedestrians and cyclists. And a new circular waste management systems has to be developed, just to mention a few of the challenges that we face. So when it comes to reducing our emissions in Stockholm, we have identified the transport sector emissions as one of the hardest to cut. Also, the reduction of plastic waste made from oil is a big challenge to handle. To stay within our carbon budget, finding ways to reduce emissions from these sectors will be important priorities in Stockholm. And given that the issue is highly affected by both national and EU legislation, this can only be achieved if multiple governance levels work together towards the same goal, all of them taking action at different levels and at the same time. On our side, the political majority in the city of Stockholm just recently announced our ambition to have an emission-free inner city center already in 2030. And with that, the electrification of the vehicle fleet is one of the most important issues we are working on at the moment. And in line with this, the city has taken the decision to install 4,000 charging spots until 2022. We are also working on a new action plan that focuses on a more sustainable use of plastic materials to be able to reduce unnecessary use of plastics in Stockholm. And both these issues will be difficult to achieve. It will take time, but I think by creating good preconditions for more sustainable urban transportation and by communication activities and other activities, I do believe that we can bring about the necessary behavioral change that we need. In Stockholm, we are also developing technologies such as bioenergy with carbon capture and storage to meet our climate goals. And this technology should put us on track to reaching the goals of the Paris Agreement. And we really need to speed up this development now, since we already have too much CO2 in the atmosphere. But I think by this type of innovative solutions, we really need more support. We need support both financially with new economical models that make these technologies more economically good, and we also need new policy to be able to use them. And as we heard from all other speakers, it is really urgent, and we need to act fast, and we need to act together. And maybe then I should get into the Covenant of Mayors, since the cities traditionally have been on the sidelines of EU decision making. And the Covenant of Mayors has been instrumental in highlighting the importance of cities for national and EU climate policies. And I think the examples that I mentioned about Stockholm with the transport sector and the plastic, that is also a global problem, I think this only stresses the importance that the cities can be involved in EU decision making. And as I also mentioned, the cities also account for 70% of the EU greenhouse gas emissions. So today, I believe that there's more open dialogue among EU institutions and local actors on climate. And I really hope that we will see the closer cooperation forward, since this is one of the key questions for the cities. And as cities, we have a tremendous experience with implementing EU rules and creating local innovation ecosystems, getting citizens and businesses on board and experimenting with new ways of doing things. But we also have very concrete challenges, bottlenecks and gaps in regulation, in funding, or in governance to take into account. So I believe that for the future of the Covenant, the European Commission should mobilize resources to technical assistance and capacity building for cities. And the Commission has to make it easier for cities to get access to financing possibilities, implementing their action plans, finance innovations, and increase cities' opportunities to exchange, replicate, and upscale their methods. And I think finally that the Covenant of Mayors has always been about cooperation and involving a broad range of actors. And we need systemic changes to turn the climate crisis around. And I believe that cooperation is a key to successfully realize these changes. So I think the Covenant will play a very important role in leading this transformation on the local and regional level. So I think I will stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Katarina. But maybe as Matthew needs to leave, maybe Matthew, you have some reaction, if you are still there, by the way, to what. Okay, thank you very much, Katarina. But maybe as Matthew needs to leave, maybe Matthew, you have some reaction, if you are still there, by the way, to what has been presented by the different speakers. Is Matthew still online?
I certainly am still here.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come back. I gave answers, and therefore I would hope to use this as a starting point. But and I'm sorry, it sounds like a terrible cliche and an overexcitable person, but I am really inspired by what I've heard. To hear the big cities like Lyon ready to go for the climate neutrality by 2030 is really inspiring. And I really want to stress how much we want to work with everything that's been done before. The leadership from things like the Covenant of Mayors and the Smart Cities Marketplace, it's real. And we don't have time to reinvent the wheel. We want to build off these existing initiatives, which are tailor-made to help cities innovate their way forward to the future. If I may say, why cities? I mean, you probably know the answers to this. You know why you can do these things. You know how fundamental it is. But we've got to get the case over to everyone, including the politicians, that 75% of us are already living in the cities, that cities worldwide are accounting for 2/3 of our energy consumption and 70% of our CO2 emissions. And this is where we're seeing the first ambitions to be carbon neutral. And we want to encourage more cities to come across and do it by 2030. I hear some cities won't be ready by 2030. Doesn't matter, work with us and push as soon as possible. We want as many cities to get to climate neutrality as soon as possible. And once again, work with us to develop this cross-sectoral and innovative approach to help a group of forerunners to get there and for us all to learn from those experiences. I'm going to stop and listen. I've got I can push it for another 15, 20 minutes. Please stay in touch. I put my email into the chat. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthew. Maybe, Katarina, one question I would like to raise regarding Stockholm. It's the governance and the transformation of the... Thank you very much, Matthew. Maybe, Katarina, one question I would like to raise regarding Stockholm. It's the governance and the transformation of the municipality. The question is, are you intending or are you thinking to implement transformational changes in the city in the department, in order to be maybe more efficient, to accelerate things, or maybe to transform parts of your administration in mission, like the mission managed by Matthew? Is it something you are considering right now?
Budget that is implemented in all our departments and all the different companies owned by the city of Stockholm. So we have taken a climate budget that says that we can emit another 19 million tons of CO2 and then nothing else ever. So we have a lot of transformational change within the city, but I believe that to be able to spread those examples, we really need to engage the businesses, the civil society, and also to be able to involve the citizens of Stockholm. And that is a really difficult question because a lot of people want to be part of the transition, but I think we have been not good enough to be able to help the citizens to live more sustainable. So I think what is needed now is actually to tell everyone why it's important. I think we have to, as Lyon said, describe all the benefits with a sustainable future. We need to describe the life quality that will come with better air quality and better water and everything that comes with a better life quality with the environmental work. But we also need to involve everyone much more in this work. So I think within the municipality's own departments, we have a very good systemic change at the moment, but we need to involve all the citizens and all the different businesses in Stockholm. And we're doing that in different ways by giving out prizes, having a climate pact with 350 Stockholm-based companies, but we need to do much more of those things.
Thank you very much. And maybe another question, but for the Covenant of Mayor, and it's related to the financial question. We have emphasized that maybe for small and medium-sized cities, they do not have the internal competencies to deal with financial questions or other questions. Are you considering in the Covenant of Mayor to work, or have you already worked on the issue related to how we can support small, medium-sized cities in getting more finance or help them to improve their own financial strategy to invest in climate neutrality? Because Stockholm is a large city, Lyon is a large city, Munich as well, but maybe that's a missing hole in the pictures, which is for the small and medium-sized cities.
What I believe and what I've seen from the Stockholm perspective and also from other cities is that we really need help with financing of start-up projects to develop new innovations and try new innovations. I think all cities can be used as test beds, and we have different opportunities in different cities, I think, to try things. But I think we need financing to start up new things. But then I think it's more important to get new economical models to make these innovation work for themselves. So I think we need everything from tax changes, that we need to tax fossil fuels more and be able to use those money to maybe subsidize better alternatives. But I think the most important now is to push money into new innovations, new startups, and new testing of things in cities.
Great. I think you also emphasize on the fact that financial support, it comes from the European Commission or national funds or even private. Great. I think you also emphasize on the fact that financial support, it comes from the European Commission or national funds or even private investment, should also finance what we can call soft skills to help projects to be more efficient, to de-risk investment, to make the innovation work and prepare what will be the rollout. So I think it's also an important message to Matthew, of course, but to other financial partners as well. I would like to hand over now and go to Sofia and ask Proshko Proshkov. Proshko, you are a fellow partner of Smarter Together, so we met several times, and you are always very clear about the situation in Sofia and your ambitions. So I would like to know how an eastern city, a capital, a large capital, will handle the climate neutral goal. Proshko, the floor is yours.
Of the panel. Since I have not prepared a special presentation, so I just wanted to share what we're up to and what we need as help. I will be just blunt and direct. What we need is help because we have not been a lighthouse city. We're not able to be in the very near future, but we have followed successfully within this project cities like Lyon, Munich, and Vienna, and we have seen the positive impact it has on us. More or less, Sofia is about to accept an action plan on sustainable energy and climate up to 2030. This summer, it now is going to undergo a public debate, and hopefully the municipal council is going to adopt such a strategy in the fall of this year. It's of course comprises everything because today's topic is big as life. It's the building stock, the transportation, the climate change adaptation in all of the sectors, the usage of renewable energy sources, changing the cityscape in every possible way so that we don't contribute to the greenhouse gases emissions, and reforming our transportation system, which is also one of my personal priorities as a politician. We are finally reaching our final stage of our waste management project this year. Now the forthcoming refuse-derived fuel treatment plan is being procured as we speak, and probably we have some company that's going to build it at the end of this year. And this will end up our waste management cycle, and we're trying to reach the goals of recycling and putting into landfills up to 2030 within the EU norms. Of course, we're trying to accelerate the energy renovation concerning the buildings in Sofia, especially municipal buildings, buildings concerning educational infrastructure, but due to financial restrictions, it's pretty complicated since we use mostly money from privatization, selling some properties that the municipality does not need, and invest everything into sustainable retrofit of buildings. Of course, our efforts to reform the transform transportation systems are continuing. And one of the major projects that we had was the new ticketing system, which is already done. And it's about to be introduced, I hope, this summer as well. It's being tested right now, which will put us among cities like London, even Singapore, etc., because it's one of the most modern state-of-the-art systems, which not only provides flexible ways of people to use the public transport, but it's also gives opportunity to make public transportation attractive, because we have an inherent problem in Eastern Europe, especially in Bulgaria, because people love their cars for different reasons than in the USA, but they love their cars. It was a matter of prestige. It was a matter of many things in the socialism, and it's still, even 1 or 2 generations after that, it's still a preferred way of transportation for people. But now our system, which offers everything from pay to go to analytics, which is the most important thing. We hope that this system will is providing abundant real-time information, and we have to base our schedules, even we're talking about adaptive schedules in the future, I mean, for the buses, etc., because we need to optimize in terms of energy, in terms of expectations from the people, and to make them come back to the buses and the tramways, unfortunately, and the subway, of course. But it's all about not only appearances, it's also always about how people accept the changes or do not accept. I think something important was mentioned from Katarina in the sense, and the citizen inclusion in this. I'll give you a small example. About 10 years, more than 10 years ago, I was a small district mayor in Sofia, and there were protests against the new line of subway that we were going to build, and people did not understand the benefits of this. They were afraid that building a subway will destroy nature, and now it's the other way around. People are pushing. The society is requiring more of us than we are able to do. One thing we are going to do within this framework is to create, because Philippe several times asked whether we are planning to do some changes within the administration. Of course, we know that the legal framework and administrative change are the most, the slowest things to happen. I remember one of our previous, in our previous meetings 2 years ago, there was a representative from Airbus who was really right of saying, please start doing your legal frameworks for air transportation of goods and people, because it may come technologically, it's here. I mean, scientifically, technologically, maybe here in 10 to 20 years, but you have to be ready within your legal framework. So we try to think even in this direction. But in terms of our main problem, apart from citizen inclusion, as I say, we also have a lot to contribute to make people change their way of life, change the mindset. We're doing all by the book. I cannot say anything that was going to surprise any of you, being on the forefront, cities that are being on the forefront. It's clear what we have to do. We have the documents. We only have a major problem, and I have mentioned it several times, with financing. I'm really happy that even green bonds were mentioned, I think, by Mr. Baldwin. It could work. It could work. We haven't tried it up to now because municipalities in Bulgaria are heavily limited, I would say maimed, mutilated from the possibility to collect taxes and have their own tax policies. It's pretty centralized. So we have a bit of a problem of issuing municipal green bonds. We would have a great problem financing everything with own capital or assets, since we are a big city, about the size of Vienna, probably a bit less than Munich, but it's although its budget is seems decent for our scale, the European funds, which are for particular projects, amount to about half of the budget, and our income that we get is actually simply not enough. I'll give you one simple example: property tax. I mean, tax on property for the whole city, 100% collected, amounts to about 60 million euros per year. And it has not been raised for more than a decade, for many reasons. But we continue to wash more, clean more, swipe more on the streets, we try to get any cents we can get from anywhere. I mean, not EU funding also, we seek also, we work with consultants from USA, for example, etc., etc. So the major problem that we would be interested is how would we find the new financial models which would incentivize the transition to a low-carb economy, because one thing is for sure, and I'll probably it's a bit scattered, but I'm also emotional and I like the topic. Do you know, for example, the topic air, the topic quality of air has been modern, so to speak, in Sofia in the last 3 or 4 years. The air is better now than 15 years before. We have reduced our emissions by 19%. We hope to reduce them by 40% more up to 2030. But people are well off now. I mean, we inherited a big economical swamp that we are slowly getting out of. And we have the middle class now, and people are more interested in quality of life and not survival. And the trade-off between having sustainable, cheap, accessible energy for the economies to grow, economies like ours, which are on the back in Europe, and keeping the climate neutrality, I mean, having it in, reaching the targets that also the Green Deal imposes, it's a bit of a trade-off. I see that there are solutions. We also joined the Covenant of Mayors. We count on your expertise, but I think this would be the main pickle for us. So thank you very much. I'm sorry if I stretched the time.
No, thank you very much, Proško, because I think you were very comprehensive. So we had a very good overview of a situation which is different from the previous one. Thank you very much, Proško, because I think you were very comprehensive. So we had a very good overview of a situation which is different from the previous one we had, for instance, Munich or Stockholm, because you have to face really the question of the involvement of the inhabitants in your sustainability policy, in your also tax policy as well. And I think that it's maybe more a question towards Matthew and the European Commission, because at the beginning of the project, and still the Smart City Lighthouse cluster is working with Lighthouse and fellow cities, and most of the fellow cities are based in the eastern part of Europe. And the idea was to test and showcase and then deploy in the eastern cities, which are the fellow cities. And it's complicated, as you really pointed out, so you are facing some specificities, and maybe if Matthew is still there, but I'm not sure, is there something special for eastern cities or countries that face very specific problems, which are absolutely not the one in Lyon or Stockholm we are facing? Matthew, are you still there?
I am, and I'm just about to go, but I just can't resist, if I may. I put a couple of comments in the thing to what Proško said in the chat, which is, I know when you have these mixed hybrid events, when you're actually there and present, it's not, you can't actually see this. You have unique problems. I fully recognize that. You were eloquent on that. I know I come from an urban mobility background, so I totally hear what you say. And what we've got to do is realize the co-benefits here, to stress, as you said, the air, the emission quality, the air quality in your cities, and how that comes along with the reduction in these invisible climate gases, and then making sure citizens understand that. Of course, people love their cars when they have no alternatives. You are very brave in what you said. Let's work on that. And on the green bonds, I totally hear you, but if you think of it, and I'm sorry, I'm not a finance expert, and that's why I wish I could hear the next session. But if you look at it from a finance expert's perspective, where the benefits are greatest, where the reduction possibilities are the greatest, that's where the most money is to be made. We shouldn't be shy about saying that. We have to embrace the private sector. People The finance sector wants to invest in green projects. And I'm willing to bet you, and we'll have lunch on this one day in Sofia, Proško, that projects like yours will offer even more returns for the private sector and the private finance community than projects in places like Stockholm. And that's how you can catch up, and that's how we can engage. I'm not a magician. I don't have a wand. But that's where we got to generate these funds from. I'm sorry to go on, but thank you so much for really an inspirational morning. And I'd better go now. I'll miss my vaccination.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Matthew.
you so much.
Don't
Just
miss
to
your
mention, lunch
vaccination.
is on me. You're welcome always. Yes.
Okay. I look forward to it. Thanks, everybody.
Don't miss your vaccination, of course. But Proško, I think that we need to certainly agree on a meeting with our financial support, CVSCO, because there's certainly many. Don't miss your vaccination, of course. But Proško, I think that we need to certainly agree on a meeting with our financial support, CVSCO, because there's certainly many things to design and to invent. I believe that the 18th Smart City project, they have developed projects that are, I think, even something like a certified green project. And we have to push this in front of the financial community because they are looking for opportunities. And I'm pretty sure that we can maybe design some very interesting financial scheme for Sofia. Because as I said in the beginning, we have different cities that are willing to create some investment fund or specific purpose vehicle. So that's something we should definitely work with you.
Just a comment, if you allow me, Philippe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. This is really not. This is not some crying for help or something, but we really need it. We are the ones that usually need the exemptions for certain climate neutrality policies, but this is understandable. As long as people want to live, I think some of the foregoing speakers mentioned this, people have to have, within the limited span of life on this earth, they have to have also their, don't have to make it by force. I would say it's clear that for example, the carbon prices, they fail to incentivize completely the replacement of existing energy stocks, but still it's probably something that we have to think on. And secondly, if we'll be really happy, apart from financial instruments, to see if you have any expertise on including people. Someone mentioned, and I have thought about this. It's really popular now to speak about referenda, something which really, especially for major projects and for big issues, is a dangerous topic. But probably crowd funding referendum through your money. Would you vote for something, and would you take part in this if you vote for it? Since if it's for a small scale projects, for example, this could be also be something. I have no idea if anyone has done it. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, Proško. We did it in Smarter Together, by the way. We had a crowdsource funding project. And I would like just to invite you to attend to the keynote. Yes, thank you very much, Proško. We did it in Smarter Together, by the way. We had a crowdsource funding project. And I would like just to invite you to attend to the keynote speech from Time for Planet, because it's not completely about this topic, but it's really a citizen and crowdsourcing base. I would like now to hand over to the last speaker from the city of Vienna. So Katrin Gall, she's not with us because she wasn't able to attend, but she recorded a video. So if we can have the video, that will be absolutely perfect. Thank you very much.
Dear mayors, ladies and gentlemen, what is the best way to make sure everyone can live happily and sustainably in today's cities? For many, this is a daunting question. After all, our cities are growing much faster than our resources. In essence, this challenge is about harnessing innovation to keep our cities livable in the future. It is about smart networking solutions in areas like ecology, energy, housing, traffic and transport. It is about making cities fit for the future and for climate mitigation. How can we achieve all this? As Deputy Mayor and City Councillor of Housing, I'm glad that our social housing system enjoys the same excellent international reputation as Vienna's famously high quality of life. But we also rely on a long-standing tradition of urban renewal. In the 1970s, the city of Vienna launched a major initiative to renovate and refurbish the existing building stock. As a result, there are hardly any substandard dwellings left in the city today. Housing quality has improved distinctively for hundreds of thousands of people. At the same time, rent levels have remained affordable over the years. This is exactly the pioneer spirit we need right now. In 2021, our meet current and future challenges. Climate mitigation, for example, has become a key issue. The housing sector can significantly contribute to moving in the right direction here. To be ready for the future, the city of Vienna has made the following preparations. We have committed to a comprehensive building refurbishment effort over the coming years. Here is a brief overview of what we do. As an incentive for refurbishment, the city of Vienna already offers up to 5,000 euros in subsidies for a refurbishment concept. Subsidies are provided as one-off payments rather than loan repayment support. We have also increased the amount of subsidies. Last but not least, we subsidize the replacement of old energy supply system by more efficient alternatives. The second main element is to improve services. Our one-stop shop called Hauskunft provides free information and advice for everyone who wants to refurbish or modernize buildings in Vienna, in the private or subsidized sector, single-family homes or blocks of flats. In new housing construction, subsidies are tied to ecological criteria stipulated in so-called developers' contests. Biotop City in Vienna's 10th district is a beautiful example. In this project, most of the rubble from demolished buildings was recycled and reused for new construction. Rainwater collection systems save water, and intensive greening improves air quality and the microclimate by reducing particulate matter and mitigating the summer heat. Vienna also makes a point of phasing out fossil fuels. The new Vienna Building Code puts an end to all heating systems in new buildings and designates climate protection areas in the city. We will also facilitate the use of photovoltaic systems. Vienna's goal is to increase solar power production fivefold by 2025. To prepare for hot summer, we have started an urban shading initiative that offers subsidies of up to 1,500 euros for the installation of exterior sun protection systems. This measure has become enormously popular. Last but not least, our program Wien Neu Plus targets entire neighborhoods with smart city measures. The local residents are given an active say. Together we refurbish and modernize their neighborhood, providing clean energy in combination with innovative mobility solutions and modern digital services. What are we building upon? We have gathered experience with projects like Smarter Together. 40 projects have been implemented in Vienna, ranging from housing with state refurbishment to new mobility services like e-car sharing to the construction of innovative zero-energy gyms in schools. Smarter Together also demonstrate the enormous potential of modern city management, as well as the key importance of international exchange. It is true we have achieved a lot, but there's still much more to do. I'm sure that with the grand climate vision in mind, we can make a difference by taking responsible action and setting positive examples. We must work together to create a sustainable future for generations to come. On this note, I want to thank you all for the excellent cooperation. I would be very happy indeed to continue implementing joint projects in the future. For now, I wish you all the best. Many greetings from Vienna.
Okay, great. I'm thanking a video, but it was great. Thank you very much, Vienna. We had an excellent meeting yesterday with Vienna with the plan to implement a Smarter Together 2.0. And there was something which I catch is that they will invest in a kind of mission, I will say, with a 1 million euro budget to finance project assistance, management, coordination, all the soft skills that is required to implement climate neutrality. So I would like to ask our Deputy Mayor, Raphaël, maybe you have some spontaneous reaction of what has been said or question to ask to one of the panelists.
Thank you, Philippe. Well, I'm so glad and so excited to hear and to listen to all these examples, which are really inspiring. And I'm really so happy to hear that we are not alone in Lyon. And when we say that we declare the climate emergency, we are not alone. It's already been done in so many cities. And that's really inspiring because every day, I think it's the same in all the cities. Citizens come to us and say, "What you're doing is not. It's just impossible. You'll never manage to do this. It's so high. You'll never manage." So to hear that, well, let's go and cycle to Europe. Let's go and have a trip all around Europe to see that. There are not only Germans that do such great things. Let's go to Sofia. Let's go to San Sebastian. We'll see that because it's really a challenge in France when you say, well, just come and see what's going on. You cross the border and you go to Germany, and everyone has things to show. And in France, in Lyon, they say, well, we're not Germans. Well, here we have the proof that we are all living in the same Europe, and we have all the same challenges to cross. And here I hear so many things that I want to show to the citizens of Lyon for the high quality of life you can have in Vienna, in Sofia, and everyone can have all around Europe. So I'm so excited to see that we'll have other times to exchange, to discuss about all the things we can do together and all the good examples and the brilliant examples we have all around Europe. So I'm glad to hear that we will manage to scale up the transition we have to do in our cities.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Raphaël. Just a point, going by bike to Sofia, it's a bit hilly, so it will be a bit difficult, but it's also healthy to bike, so that's quite essential. I would like to ask also the other panelists if you want to add a word, ask a question to another panelist, or emphasize on something you have seen as particularly important. Matthew is not there, but we still may have some people from the Commission, so you can also express new messages towards the European Commission, of course. I don't know if someone wants to take the lead on that. Apparently no, so I think it's time for conclusion. So I would like to thank you for the conclusion you have made, Raphaël, because I think it's essential. Just to highlight one point I have catch from all the conversation and all the intervention, I think we really need to emphasize on the fact that the soft skills, the technical assistance, which is not only technical, but it's also related to how you involve citizens, how you secure innovation project and prepare the rollout, are essential in a way to prepare proper investment and rollout in all the cities across Europe. So I think it's essential, and we have some differences, of course, between Lyon and Sofia to be taken into consideration. So thank you all. I would like to invite the politician on our session to stay online, because we are going to have a keynote speaker. I would like to invite Mehdi Kohli from Time for Planet to join us on the stage. So Mehdi, thank you very much for being there. Raphaël, stay, because it's essential that you are there. So Mehdi, we have two differences, in fact. You are young and you are bold. And maybe as you are young and bold, you may save the planet. So that's something you have highlighted in Time for Planet. I will just present briefly what I understood from Time for Planet, and you will, of course, correct me, I believe. Time for Planet is an investment fund created by 6 young entrepreneurs who is not young entrepreneurs coming from a Switzerland bank. I have nothing against the Swiss, but I think we have to raise the difference in philosophy and approach. And you are committed to invest in 100 technologies that have the potential to save the planet. And you do it very differently from a classical investment fund, because you are a kind of crowdsource base, or at least you are investing not only in technology, but in the power of citizens, in the multitude, I would say, because I don't know how many shareholders you have.
25,000.
Yeah, so that's a multitude, to change things. So Mehdi, the floor is yours to present and to all across Europe. As you have seen, you have people from Stockholm, from Sofia, from everywhere. What is Time for Planet?
Your presentation was excellent, so I'm not going to correct you because everything was perfectly right. Yeah, the thing is that when you understand what really means climate change for you, for everybody here, and for your kids, then you have a very big problem, because climate change is something huge, it's something global. But as a citizens, it seems that all what you can do is very small things, like, for example, eating less meat or buying a push scooter or something like that. But you know that it's very important to do it, but you know as well that it will not be enough. So after, you can just wait to see what happens with politics, with banks, and I really believe that this is starting to move. Will it be enough? I don't know, but it's starting to move. But there are very big issues like, for example, banks, because banks have already financed the extraction of the rest of the oil that we know that exists. So there's a lot of money here, but the problem they have is that there's two possibilities. The first one is that we extract and we burn this oil. But everybody knows that if we do that, then there's no chance for the civilization. And in the other hand, they can say, okay, we will not burn this oil, but we will never be paid for all the investments we have done. And so the problem is that all those assets of the banks represent a lot more than the funds that they have. And so what we can do as a citizen now is helping all the system to move. Because at a more smaller scale, there's something that we have understood, I believe that everybody knows that now, is that we will need innovation to find ways to produce with less greenhouse gas. So that's what we have to do. But the thing is that innovation really comes usually from scientists, and scientists are not entrepreneurs. And so we have found a lot of publications, a lot of innovation that could be very important for all the civilization, but that will never go from the scientist to the real life of everybody, just because scientists are not always good entrepreneur. And a lot of time those just don't want to do it or don't know how to do it. So what Time for the Planet wants to do is investing financially in those innovations, finding great entrepreneurs who have done a lot before, who knows a lot how to scale, how to make millions of dollars with something, how to hire a lot of people. So we bring those entrepreneurs inside a scientific team. We invest financially, and we use a business model which is the inverse of what is usually done in the industry. This business model is based on open source. That means that we create a license, and anybody can ask to use this license and to be able to make business with the innovation for free. That doesn't mean that the company that we want to create will not make money. It just means that we will not forbid anybody to make money with it. So with this system, we believe that we can create more than just companies. We think that we can create markets. The second thing is that with this system, if our companies don't work, it's not a problem for the civilization, because other companies will have been created thanks to the innovation, and will be able to scale. And those innovations are something that all the civilization needs. So there's no reason to forbid anybody to use them and to make money with them. The system can make those innovations grow. And you said that the way we do it is different, because we want to empower the citizens. So yes, you can buy shares from Time for the Planet in 1 minute on the website. It's really easy. And that's why we have already 25,000 different shareholders. The smallest is just €1 for 1 share, and the biggest is 2 million for 2 million shares. And so we've raised around $9 million, so we can start creating companies, and we have already selected 2 innovations in which we are currently investing. So that's the start of the real play.
Okay. And what's your goal? You have $9 million. Do you want to extend, I believe, your investment size? That's the goal?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And how does it work? It's something you are, I think, based in Lyon.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean anything, because you are a worldwide initiative.
We are based on the cloud.
You are based on the cloud. Yeah. So some people from Stockholm, from Sofia, or can invest in your company, in your investment fund.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody can invest. We have already shareholders from 75 different countries. And the goal is to go to 1 billion at the end of the day, but we can start, obviously, without 1 billion, and so it's what we're currently doing.
Okay. And you have mentioned 2 companies that you are going to invest. Can we know a bit more on the technologies or areas? Because we are here in a community of projects of aiming to make cities livable and climate neutral. So I believe there's many technologies that can be used to that. I think there was a report from the Atomico investment fund that there will be 4 billion invested in smart cities. Do you think that smart cities is also something interesting for saving the planet, for instance?
So for the first question is what are the companies we create? So maybe just one word about how we find those innovations. So our strategy for that is just to communicate a lot. So on the internet, we have a lot of people now who know about Time for the Planet, and so we receive every day a lot of different innovation from people who want to get financed and who wants to do it in an open source way, because it's something that now people are ready to do. So what we do is that, as there is too much different innovations that are sent, it's impossible for just the 6 founders to evaluate that. And even if we had the time, we are not totally able to do it because innovations are in very different topics, and so it's very difficult to know if it's something that is reliable. So what we've done is that we have a community of 3,000 people who are evaluating, and so they receive a very short training, so they know what we are looking for, and they select. And after that, there is a scientific committee who is going to look the 5-6 best innovations that are selected by the evaluators in each 3 months. And after that, we go to the General Assembly and we say, are you okay if we invest 1 million on this company, for example? And so one of the companies we are going to create, which will be called Carbon Impact. And the idea is that you can use olivine, which is a rock, to spread in a very small quantity in a lot near the beaches of the ocean, and this is going to accelerate a natural process of carbon capture, and it's more reliable than the forest because the total carbon that is captured is a lot more than with forests. And when you've put the olivine inside the water, you're sure that it's going to be in the water for 50 years, for example, which is not the case with the forest, because the forest can burn.
Okay, and the second one?
Yeah, the second one is a battery technology. The difference with the current technology with lithium, for example, is that with lithium, you know that each three years you have to change the material, and it's very difficult to recycle. And there is a lot of material that are rare on the earth. So we know that it will not be enough if we want to use this battery to replace for example, oil. So this technology is very interesting because there is unlimited cycle. So you can use it for 30 years without changing anything. And if you have to change just one component because it's broken, it's fully recyclable.
Okay. And are you discussing with other investment funds, classical one, to get a leverage effect? I will not mention BlackRock, for instance, because BlackRock now is all about sustainability, but they have a bit of a problem to be how to exit from stranded investment, as you mentioned. But are you considering to work with other investment for this leverage effect? And what will be the condition if?
Yeah, definitely. We can work with any company or any investment fund. We already have 1,050 different companies that are shareholders. We have already 6 different funds as well that are shareholders. So any fund can buy shares from Time for the Planet and be investor. So we discussed with them for that, and as well because when the goal of Time for the Planet is to make the first investment where it's the most difficult to make it, and at a stage where we can have a very big influence on the business model because it's very important for our mission. But after that, we can have any fund that can come and bring money for Series A, Series B, etc. So yeah, we definitely discuss with anybody, and even companies that pollute a lot can come to Time for the Planet because we have a governance which has been thought to be able to say yes to everybody. And even if Total or any companies like that come and brings a lot of money to Time for the Planet, we know that it's impossible for them to have a negative influence on the politics of the company. And as they have no money to earn because there's no return for the companies or for anybody who buys shares, we believe that there's no reason as well to invest in Time for the Planet to do anything else than the mission of Time for the Planet.
Okay, I may have maybe one last question, and then after Raphaël. No, you don't have question. Okay. you have may heard that we were discussing with Sofia and with other cities on how to create some kind of crowdsource base for investment or investment funds that are crowdsource based. So I know that this is not the purpose of Time for Planet to invest in smart cities project or to do this kind of job, but there's some similarities, I will say. So if you have one word of advice to Sofia or to me as well, or other cities, to see what are the critical conditions to create a crowdsource investment fund base, what will be your word of advice?
Yeah, that's the main question when you start a crowdfunding. I believe that the reason why it worked for us is that it was really clear how we wanted to use this money, and as well because there is a lot of things that have been done to make it very easy, to make it as well fun. Because in fact, when you talk about climate change only by saying it's your fault, you should do something or anything like that, people just don't want to hear that. People just want to have a positive way of thinking. And so that's what we always communicate with humor, and we never say who is good and who is bad. And that's, I believe it's the most important thing in this topic.
And I believe you have also very particular skill or competencies in your investment fund, and I don't know if you can call them community manager or thing like that, but when we look at your digital website or your digital communication campaign, they are very, very skilled, very, very efficient, I will say, and that's not something that cities are used to do. They are not very, it's more information rather than advocacy in a way. That's a different way, and it's really interesting. Maybe Proshko is still online. I don't know if Proshko, you want to, because we were talking about crowdfunding a couple of minutes ago.
So I didn't hear at the beginning, what was the amount that you have collected up to now in shares?
It's $9 million. If you check on the website, it's written 4.5 million euros, because on the website we display only what is already on the account, bank account, but we already signed deals that are binding. And we don't communicate on that directly on the website. And you have 25,000 shareholders. Yes.
Yes, this is wonderful, and I wish you lots of luck. I'll probably contribute and ask friends to do it as well. It's possible, but it's really important to find a way for me to make the R&D, the research and development in Europe, breakthrough research and development. Since World War II, we have had great R&D in Europe, but it's actually gets behind the US and some of the Asian research centers as well. So everything that actually brings up quality, not also quantity, is going to give us a competitive edge in the future, I think, for Europe, for the European Union. We need a breakthrough innovation system through such instruments and through other instruments, since although the international scrutiny is putting pressure on China on their climate policies, they're still very successful in investing in copper mines, etc., worldwide. And until they're doing it, we're fighting climate neutrality through such measures. At some point, even going, okay, this is going to be again my iconoclastic opinion on the matter, but sometimes even forming forms of some kind of a new green crony capitalism. I'm sorry for the harsh phrase, but it's like this, and it does not guarantee innovation, but probably through instruments like this one, Time for the Planet, which is pretty distanced from the politics and business in different stakeholders and countries within the Union, this gives us a good future. I think I'll check it further on and I'll contact you. Thank you.
Yes, that's true that there is, we try to have a distance with politics, because inside Time for the Planet we have people who are very left-wing and very right-wing as well in economy. And so people can work together when there is something very clear to achieve. And I think it's very important not to divide people, because, for example, if you launch a discussion about nuclear or things like that, you will have people who could have worked together that are going just to spend a lot of time to discuss things on which they have no power. And that's a very big problem, because a lot of people ask us, but what do you think about nuclear? Are you going to do something with that? Well, I don't have $50 billion, so don't worry, I will not do anything with nuclear. So it's not something we should spend time on.
Okay, thank you very much, Mehdi. I think it was great. I hope that for us, we will be inspired by what you have done, and we can certainly dig in to see what we can do with local or smart city investment funds. That's very inspiring. And I hope for you, you have win some few shareholders, not $2 million, but I hope some of.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. So I would like now to give the floor to the second keynote speaker, which is Matti, if I'm correct, from Compensate. Matti, are you online? Perfect. Matti, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. So yeah, my name is Matti Fuso-Arasmaa. I'm from Compensate, and I'm talking to you from the lovely city of Helsinki, where it's at the moment 10 degrees more than what it's supposed to be, as it has been for the whole month of June. And if you look at what happens in Canada, it's 49 degrees and there's people dying of heat in Canada. So this urgency on the climate is really something which is gathering now attention in the media and everywhere. And the fact that we are now talking about this in this event in particular is also a very good sign. So in order to save the climate in the next decade, there's really two things we need to do. First, we need to reduce emissions drastically, and that is something that has a lot of attention, and that is great. Many corporations and cities and countries now have pledges to reduce their emissions. But there's another thing also. We need to remove the excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. We have surpassed in 1987 the safe level of carbon dioxide density in the atmosphere. And even if we would stop completely emitting carbon dioxide right now, we would still need to clean up the mess that we have created since the Industrial Revolution. And this is the problem that Compensate is addressing, removing this excess CO2 from the atmosphere. That's something where consumers have really understood. This is something that they want to do, and this is something they want corporations and they want cities, countries to do as well. The fact is that it's quite hard at the moment to understand how you can contribute to have climate actions, and it's something which can be a bit clumsy. Quite often, compensating your purchases is a much smaller amount than what you would imagine. For instance, you can compensate a meal with meat with 20 cents. So it's something for almost any person. It's something very obvious to do and very simple to do, but it needs to be also easy. If you need, every time you go and eat, you need to decide, yes, I want to pay this extra 15 or 20 cents. You're going to do it twice or three times, and then you're lazy, I'm lazy, everybody is lazy. If it's not simple enough, it won't work. So we want to create a system where you can embed compensation in every payment, every consumer behavior that you have, and channel that money into projects which are virtuous. And why projects which are virtuous? Well, maybe you have been reading from Greenpeace, from The Guardian, from other news outlets lately, that carbon offsetting market is a bit tricky. Something that has been around for 20 years, and it's really poorly regulated. Now, with so many corporations that have net zero pledges, there's huge amounts of money that are going to pour into that market. And some analysts believe that carbon offsetting will be larger than oil within a few years. So there's huge potential, but it's poorly regulated, and most of the projects are either neutral for the climate or even harmful. the easiest thing to do is to plant a lot of eucalyptuses somewhere and chop them off 5 years ago, 5 years later. And eucalyptus is a tree that grows fast, but it also takes all the water from the soil and it kills all the vegetation around. So easy solutions and cheap solutions are often very bad solutions. So we have quite a different approach, and we have built a portfolio of projects together with the scientific community. So we have a scientific panel that is led by a person called Markku Kulmala, who's a very respected climate scientist from Helsinki. And together with this scientist, we have created criteria based on which we can accept projects that we work with. So we do basic checks. We check that they are additional, so that with the money you are able to capture carbon that would not happen otherwise. We're checking that the baselines are correct, that the difference between having the money and not having the money is indeed what the project claim. We check that there's permanence, for instance, that there's no risk of corruption, that we limit the risk of wildfires, for instance, what the previous panelists mentioned, and we reduce the risk of illegal logging and so on. So we want to make sure that this will be permanent and the carbon capture will continue after the project has ended. We also want to ensure biodiversity. This is another huge crisis that we have at the moment, and we can't solve climate change without solving also biodiversity crisis. And we're also checking that human rights are respected. Too often there's projects where you reforest on land that is used for cultivating food for local populations in Africa, Southeast Asia. And well, if you take the land that they use to grow food, of course, they're gonna chop the wood just next by and grow food there. So you need to make sure there's a buy-in of local communities and you empower them, you employ them, and then you respect also socioeconomic situation in those countries. So there's a few different types of projects that we work with. We work with forest conservation, because you need to protect the forest that already exists and protect the biodiversity there. We do reforestation projects or afforestation projects, so we grow trees in places where they were not. And that typically happens in Southeast Asia and South America, sometimes in Africa, typically in the global south. And in Europe, we work with what we call innovative projects. So you can do biochar that you put in the soil, and there you have permanence, which is much longer. You sequestrate carbon for thousands of years. We also fund projects that take carbon dioxide from the air and try to do that into something solid or put it under the ground. So those more advanced projects typically happen in Europe. And we have this portfolio where we select projects if they fulfill our criteria, and we monitor that they proceed as expected, and that we get the results that we expect. And it's a dynamic portfolio, so if there's projects that we are disappointed with, we may remove them from there. And we manage this project a bit like a bank would manage a fund, for instance. We want to make sure that the compensation payments that we get in are used in order to have the maximal return on climate impact. Another innovation that we have brought is overcompensation, because even if the projects we select are really the best available, there's always risk. You can always have natural disasters, you can have wildfires. So there's always some part of risk. So we buy a bit more credits than what we would strictly be required to do in order to mitigate those risks. And also, on a more philosophical point of view, it's not enough to be carbon neutral, we need to be carbon negative. So every time we compensate, we go a bit beyond that, and we make sure that actually all transactions that we compensate for go carbon negative. Another issue, which is quite typical in this market, is a lack of transparency. Most players are for-profit players that take cuts from compensation payments, and it's often a bit tricky to understand how much money exactly goes to the projects and what is the cut that they make. So we are a non-profit, which allows us much more transparency. So for instance, we publish all our bank statements online. You can find them online and check what we do exactly with the money. And we don't take any cut from compensation payments. We have an app that's free to use for consumers. We don't make a cent out of that. And for businesses, we take license fees, which are separate from the compensation payments, meaning that we are not incentivized to have compensation payments grow up for us to grow, because of course we want everybody's carbon footprint to go down and compensation payments to go down. So we are sure that we decouple those incentives. And the last innovation that we've brought is that we're actually a tech company. So we are building a scalable technology platform in order to connect these, or let's say to offer interfaces to our compensation portfolio to any digital interfaces that people are used to use. So for instance, we have tools for e-commerce where every time you order something, you can also compensate for this payment. We have tools for apps, for instance, mobile banks or food delivery apps is something we can connect to. And we have this app, which is free to use, which is available in all countries in the European Union. So all of you dear participants, you can check that out on your Android or iOS platforms called Compensate. And there you can do tests there's a lot of different questions that will assess what is your lifestyle. How do you live? How do you heat yourself? What do you consume? What do you eat? How often do you buy things? How often do you fly? Do you use a car and so on? And it will calculate an estimation of your carbon footprint. And then it allows you to compensate that on a recurring payment every month. And we're doing this, we're building this app with people who are veterans from the gaming industry, which is also quite big in Finland. And so it's gamified in order to have challenges, to invite friends, and to have to make sure it's fun to use, and then also trying to nudge a bit users to reduce their carbon footprint at the same time that they do these compensation payments. So we have now thousands of users for our app, and on the corporate side, we work with companies such as Supercell or DNA or Futurize in Finland, and we started working with the London School of Economics, who selected us as their go-to partner for compensation earlier this year. And we start to be quite big and well-known in Finland, and now we're expanding in Europe, and glad to work with really any companies in Europe who would like to compensate either the emissions from the operations, or help compensate the products and services they offer to consumers. We don't work with cities at the moment, but that's something we're really glad to explore as well. We were founded in June 2019, and since then we've managed already to channel 2 million euros to carbon capture through our platform. So as, let's say, a recap, we believe that whenever we create CO2 emissions, we should commit to removing at least an equal amount from the atmosphere. And for this to work, that requires a system, and that's why Compensate exists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Matti, thank you very much. Maybe I have just one question, but you open already as a question is, can you do something with the cities? And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd be glad to do that. Yes. So what we don't do is very precise carbon footprint emissions, like carbon footprint calculations, but that's something that I guess most cities now start to have already. So you do have those calculations. Those are like very scalable. So that's more consultancy work. But as soon as you do have your carbon footprint calculations, that's something we can work with, and we can compensate that, and we can maybe. It's typically probably higher volumes than we have with companies, so we can also tailor a bit our project portfolio to something that suits you. But we would be very happy to work with any city that would like to explore offsetting as well as a tool for net zero.
So you can propose also projects that are trustworthy to cities, for instance.
Exactly.
If they want to compensate.
Exactly.
Do you have projects you want to finance? I'm asking to Raphaël, but you don't have to answer because it's a bit a trick.
For sure, in France and in Lyon, we have a carbon footprint, so we need projects. For now, we are a bit slow on this thing, on this carbon footprint. We have a first review of what we are supposed to compensate, but it's not really serious, so we have to work a bit more just to know what we're supposed to compensate.
Compensate before selecting a project or thing like that. Okay, thank you very much, Matti. I'm afraid we are running a bit out of the schedule, so we have to move on. But I would like to really thank the two speakers, because it's a wind of hope, I believe, you have brought to the smart city communities. You are young, you are bold, you are creating innovative startups, and I think the main point is that you are isolating your purpose or your goals to entrench interest coming from political or economic side. So that's really a great thing, and thank you very much. So we will move to the next point of the agenda, which is a signature of the manifesto. And I will hand over this to Jens and Robin to present what is the manifesto and to proceed to the signature. So I believe that Jens, you are connected?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very
okay,
well.
Great. Good morning, have a good day, everybody. So when we talk about collaboration, nobody will tell you collaboration is bad. Collaboration is something good, but collaboration doesn't happen easily. So you need a group of people that want to work together, that see a purpose in working together, because else it's just a tick box. And so over the many years before, we had many framework programs for Horizon that came before Horizon 2020, and there were lots of good projects and there was lots of money flowing into them. But what happened very often is that actually projects were running in parallel. They acknowledged the being of the other project, the existence of the other projects, but if it was anything, that it was very often just a tick box that they say, yeah, we collaborate. So it was really great to see that with the Lighthouse projects, this actually came about organically. So at a certain moment, when more and more started coming on, to life, they saw that it was actually good to collaborate. So it was really organically saying, yeah, now we have to structure this. And this then actually, and Ruben will tell you more of the history, but this was this really crucial moment in Nottingham at the time, that the project said, yeah, we really think that makes sense. And we want to do this. And since then, it became better and better. And actually, it became something different. It became not just projects that came together, but became kind of a one project all together. So a meta project, something that was so much bigger than the single project. And actually, at the end, this collaboration could claim that it would be, that it's actually the biggest smart city project in the whole world. So this is something absolutely great. And today we're here in this virtual format, signing a virtual format, but in the end, the collaboration is real, I can assure you. It's not just virtual. And they are going to renew now, while we are talking, the latest version of this manifesto, including all the current 18 projects. And with this, before I say too much, I'll hand over to Ruben to give him still some space to say something as well.
Okay, so thank you so much, Jens, for your introduction to our collaboration framework. I would like to make a review of this process, because the Smart Cities and Communities initiative has been running for 7 consecutive calls, and as you have said, Jens, there has been an increase in the number of projects engaged in this collaboration. So there is a long history behind this formalized collaboration. So first of all, okay, we are a Smart Cities project cluster that comprises 18 projects funded under one specific topic, that is the Smart Cities and Communities Lighthouse projects. We comprise 120 cities, and we are working together in similar things, implementing new models for energy transition, implementing and demonstrating innovative solutions in several sectors, energy, mobility, ICT. But we always put the cities and the citizens as the core of this transformation, because smart cities are by and for the citizens. So this group of projects, and as you, Jens, has highlighted, is the biggest smart cities initiative worldwide. We are more than 600 partners participating together in these 18 projects. We are supported from the European Commission by more than 420 million euros. We are leveraging a lot of more investments in the implementations in these cities. And we started long ago to analyze how we can collaborate under the motto, together we are stronger. This is the philosophy that is behind the first 3 projects that started this collaboration in a kind of informal manner long ago when the first 3 projects started their operation. So this was the beginning of this collaboration, and it was a very fluent and informal collaboration in common topics affecting these 3 projects. But since then, of course, many things have happened. Many more projects were joining continuously the group, more challenges emerged, different challenges of the projects, and of course the group was bigger and bigger, and then the complexity of the management of this collaboration was, of course, bigger. And then we decided, when we were 9 projects, to organize this collaboration in groups. We defined that a board of coordinators represented by all the project coordinators and led by one of the coordinators in a rotative manner, acting as a chair of the group, were going to steer this collaboration that is organized in an operational basis with the implementation under what we call task groups. Now we have this board of coordinators, and also 5 task groups that are working in concepts like business models and finance, communication and dissemination, data management, monitoring and evaluation, and replication. All projects are represented in these groups. And after this volunteer process then became a little bit more formal, and we signed a first version of this collaboration manifesto by a signature in a ceremony in Nottingham in March 2017, and this was signed by the first 9 projects of the group. After that, of course, the family was growing and incorporating, of course, more projects that were also very keen to participate from the very beginning in this initiative. And then we formalized a second version of this manifesto in San Sebastian, that was signed in San Sebastian in 2019, and that was signed by 14 projects. Now we are at the moment in which the family includes 18 projects throughout all the projects that were funded under these 7 consecutive calls, and also we count on with a very good support from the supporting contract scale that is helping and supporting us to reach the ambitious objectives that we have established under this collaboration. So today it is my big pleasure, because currently I'm representing this whole group of 18 projects. Today is my pleasure, as I said before, to announce the process of signature of this 3rd version of the Collaboration Framework Manifesto. Unfortunately, as we all know, due to the travel restrictions, we cannot sign it physically in Lyon, and unfortunately we have to do it virtually. So our desire, of course, of the 18 project coordinators will have been to be the signing document. So I would like to give thanks to all the coordinators, to our scale colleagues, and also to CINEA, and of course to the European Commission for the support that we have received always. And my final message: I'm really satisfied that we can continue through the signature of this manifesto in the same boat. We continue implementing energy transition in cities and lighting European cities towards a brilliant and climate neutral future. So practically now, as you will be able to see in your screen, we are going to proceed with the signature through a Slido from all the project coordinators. So you will see live how the 18 project coordinators sign this new version of the manifesto.
So let's start.
Let's start.
I have a difficulty to make the count, but
yeah, it's moving.
It's moving. Yeah. And I can see that Jim did a very bright thing, because we can see sharing cities in the middle in bold. That's a good trick. So how many do we have? 2, 4, 6. I think we have the count.
You have the count, so...
I'm not very good in mathematics, but I think it's okay. So we can celebrate and have a class.
Thank you.
So thank you all. It's time to take a break.
Thank you so much.
And then we go back to the studio from Lyon at 30 sharp, of course, to discuss the future of energy communities. Thank you all, and I will hand over to another moderator, so you won't see me before the afternoon. I know that you are all sorry for that, but I will be back. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.